Welcome to the Find Creative Expression podcast, conversations about art and creativity. I'm your host, Sarah Crawford, author, musician, and playwright. You can find the show notes and other information at findcreativeexpression.com. And let's get going. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of the Find Creative Expression podcast. Coming up soon, I have an interview with writer and character enthusiast Michael Tillman. It's always fun to talk to Michael, so definitely stick around for that. This week has been my first week as a freelancer slash author full-time. I haven't had as productive of a week as I would have liked. I think this started last week. I didn't get hardly any writing done last week because, I was so distracted by the election. We were sort of in a really weird kind of state of limbo all last week. And I mean, even though it's been sort of resolved now, I feel like I don't feel like it is resolved. Like, I don't feel like it's over. So I still have that feeling of kind of worrying about that and having anxiety about that. So I feel like it has, affected my writing a little bit. I'm trying to be kind of, cut myself some slack. Presidential elections only happen, once every 4 years. So I think it's okay if I'm a little distracted. I was doing National Novel Writing Month in November, which is where you try to write 50,000 words by the end of November. I obviously did horribly last week. I did not hit my word count goals at all. So I have a lot of catching up to do. I'm hoping to just, just really focus and get a lot of writing done this weekend. So we'll see if that happens. So that's kind of where I am with that. I am starting to kind of get a little worried about putting up Until the Night Falls for pre-order because I have to have, a finished manuscript by December. I feel like Christmas Eve-ish. But, I think I'll be able to make it happen. I'm almost done with the book. I'm gonna have to crunch a little bit with editing, but hopefully I can still make it happen. All right, so instead of just rambling on forever, I think I'll just get into the interview. So yeah, let's do it. Hey everyone, I'm here with Michael Tillman. Michael Tillman is a writer with a BA in English and a master's in education. He's currently working on an untitled comedy web series about rehab. He has been an actor, a poet, and a filmmaker. He's also a music lover, a guitarist, and a character enthusiast. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, yeah, a character enthusiast. That's cool.
Yeah, we'll get into what that actually means in a minute.
I mean, I don't even really know what that means, but
that was like the best way for me to describe it. So when did you start writing and how did you fall in love with it?
I started writing I would write like stories when I was a kid, like silly, like sci-fi stories and stuff. But I guess I've kind of had like a conflicted relationship with writing. I've written like off and on most of my life, but I seem to go through these phases where like I'll write a lot, and like just get a shitload done, but then I like won't write for like months, after that. I'm a very inconsistent writer. I guess I'm like a lazy writer, maybe is the word.
Right. Well, that's how some people are. Whatever. Like some people are like, oh, you have to write every day, but I think it's more of just like whatever works, like some people just aren't everyday writing people, and that's fine.
Yeah, you're like an everyday writing person.
Most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm gonna wait for inspiration to hit, but then, you know, you can't just like sit around waiting for inspiration, you know, like, so sometimes I guess with me, like I have to like force myself to do it even if I don't want to, because I mean, it's not like everything you write is going to be like pure gold, you know.
Right, exactly. So I've no need to write poetry, fiction, songs, and screenplays. So is your writing process different depending on the medium?
Yeah, actually, I've noticed that it is. So it's weird. Like with screenplays, I seem to have more of like a plan. Like I'll write out like all the scenes that I want to write, and not even necessarily like in any kind of order. It's just like if in that world it seems like, oh, this or those characters, it seems like this needs to happen. I'll just write the stuff and then I'll go back later and piece it all together after like I write like a rough outline. But like with fiction, I don't write as much fiction, but with that, I seem to be more of like I just kind of dive right in. And it's like a lot of, I guess, more or less stream of consciousness style, which you'd think it would like be the opposite. But like, I don't know, maybe that's why I have a harder time with fiction. It's just because it seems like more of a daunting task where like, plus with screenplays, I do like enjoy writing dialogue a lot more than I do narration. So yeah, so I mean, it is different. I don't know if I write in any other mediums. I mean, I don't really write poetry anymore. I'm like not as melancholy, I guess.
Right.
I don't know.
So how long has it been since you've written a song?
Okay, so that's kind of a weird one because I write like, you mean like, I mean, I write pieces of songs like all the time. Like I'll sit down to play guitar and I'll write like a really cool just progression and maybe even like a little bit of a vocal melody. But I don't know what it is. Like for whatever reason, I don't seem to have like that drive as much as I did when I was in my 20s and even like early 30s to like do it. I don't know if it's like a time thing or if it's like a feeling thing or emotion thing, but like the last time I wrote like a full song was probably like a year and a half ago when I was in rehab. I wrote a couple songs with Justin, this guy I knew there. I mean, I think it's similar to the writing thing. I mean, it's just like, for me, it's easier to like make a work of any kind of art, whether it's like songs or writing or whatever, like after the experience is over, you know, like I don't really tend to do a lot of that while it's still going on.
Right. Well, it's like, you know, the recollected and tranquility bit, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that full quote is like poetry is the spontaneous overflow of emotion, recollected and
tranquility. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty true. It's pretty legit.
Yeah, I would say not even just poetry, but like all art in general, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and you could even like take it so more than like, even if you're not an artist, even, I mean, if you don't do anything creative, like any kind of experience in life, if you have it, like even just like growing as a person, if you have any kind of experience or you're going through something bad, like later on when you look back and you look at it, like even if you just learn from it and change your life, I think it's applicable kind of in that way as well.
Right. Yeah. So you're in recovery and you've been clean for a year now. So congrats with that. So how has your experience with addiction informed your creative process?
Well, the whole like in recovery thing, you know, to me, it was just, you know, when people say like in recovery or you were using drugs, it's like I was making bad decisions and doing unhealthy things, and now I like live healthily.
Well, no, I mean, I kind of think like addiction with you. I mean, you know, I've known you for a while, and I feel like you never really had like addiction issues before. Like I feel like it's just happened for you like in the last, you know, few years or whatever. So I mean, I've had experience with, you know, addicts. Like my ex-husband was big. I had a lot of addiction issues, and with him it seemed like, you know, he had like that, you know, addiction within him, like since he was a teenager, like from the first time that he tried any sort of substance. So I feel like with you, it's more just like a, you know, a phase that you or not phase, but you know what I mean, like more of a temporary crisis, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose that makes sense. I guess I just have like, I guess sometimes I take issue like with the phrase like in recovery, or I mean, I know it sounds weird when people are like, "Oh, congratulations," and I know part of me is like, "Dude, just shut the fuck up and like take the, the compliment," but it's like, I guess, you know, it's almost like a, hey, congratulations for not fucking up. Whereas like, plus, I mean, I kind of view it as, if you have addictive tendencies or you were an addict, that doesn't mean that you're always going to be an addict. And it doesn't mean you always were one. I think it's just certain people have more addictive tendencies than others. And I know like with addiction, like it's pretty multifaceted. It's not just like a genetic, or it's not lifestyle. It's not upbringing. It's kind of all of it together. I think that I guess I like the phrase maybe more, you've recovered from like a period of time where you were making bad decisions and you were living unhealthily, but you recovered from it and you changed and now you're just living more healthy. But it doesn't like even preclude the possibility of potentially like using again. So I guess I like the phrase like between relapses, which is like, I know it's like really bad, but I mean, I don't know, because I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Right.
I mean, I'm just like living more healthy now than I was before. But I guess that's like a long-winded way of saying, hey, thanks.
Well, so, and then has your addiction kind of changed or evolved your creative process at all?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's to be honest with you. So before I developed a substance use problem, because I didn't really start using drugs heavily until I was 30, or not 30, but about 28, 29. And I'm 36 now. And I've been clean for, like you said, like a year. While I was using, the weird thing is like, I actually didn't really do much writing or playing music. I mean, I would have like periods of sobriety in there. It's not like I was just using drugs for, 6 years just straight. I mean, it would wax and wane and I would have periods of sobriety here and there. But I mean, for the most part, I mean, when you're using, being creative or writing or doing any of that stuff, not really like your main, like, pursuit. It's just getting high and getting fucked up and figuring out ways to get fucked up and maintain that. So, I mean, prior to using, I did write a lot more. I played a lot more music. However, that being said, even though I kind of took a hiatus when I was using, now that I am in, recovery, should I just used it? Now that I am like not using drugs, I would say the work that I am doing now, it's way better because all of that experience that I went through with using, it actually kind of, helped me learn and grow. And I became a smarter, just stronger person. I mean, I think if you go through something like that and you don't learn anything from it, then, I mean, kind of just what a waste. But like, if you can get through it, I mean, it actually, for me, it does make my work like, I like it more personally on a personal level. I feel more fulfilled with it, just because I'm taking that experience and I'm like looking at it in retrospect, kind of like what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's, I think just having more experience in general can lend itself to creativity in some ways,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I thought about too, like how, a lot of times I've noticed like with writers in particular, like a lot of writers or well-known writers, they don't even really have their first like major work published until, like maybe mid-30s or on, sometimes even like later than that. This is just a broad generality, but like I've almost feel like sometimes that's because like it takes that long just to accumulate, enough significant life experience that you can then look back on, like it's happened, it completed, it's over, and you've reflected on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you have been in bands like Long Absent Friends and Third Candle that were really active in the Atlanta music scene from around 2009 to 2012-ish. So tell us about, one of your most memorable performances.
I mean, honestly, I would say, Third Candle was fun. That was definitely, more of like a party type band thing. I was just like a rhythm guitarist, so I didn't really write any music. I just kind of like laid chord progressions down and played with it. So that was kind of just more of like a fun partying, playing rock shows type thing. I would say, so for a memorable one, probably that one that you and I played at Lenny's. That one was really good. That was probably my most memorable one. Like, we recorded it even, because in Long Absent Friends, I was, me and you were the songwriters. So it's a little bit different when you're in a band where you're writing the songs versus just like, being a rhythm guitarist or playing stuff that someone else has already written. Right. I don't know. I just remember just this really cool feeling, even though it wasn't like the biggest show, just playing these songs that we wrote, for an audience and just having them like respond to it. I would say, honestly, even considering all the drugs I've done and all the different highs that I've had, like just playing live, your music that you've written live, like to an audience, and having them like feel that is amazing. It's like one of the best natural highs personally that I've had.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that Lenny show with Long Absent Friends, that was definitely a cool show. I miss Lenny's. Lenny's was a really cool venue.
Lenny's was great. It was like the trashiest dive bar. But
yeah, it was very divey.
Yeah.
I remember one time my parents came to see me play at Lenny's, and they were like, "What kind of place are you bringing us to?"
I remember you always had the greatest stage banter. It was just always like really chill and fun.
Yeah, I always did kind of just say random things when because I just felt like, oh, you gotta keep talking. Like, I don't know. Yeah, like you don't want to have dead air,
Yeah, and it wasn't like anything super serious. You're never like, so this next song I wrote for my ex, I just hope you're doing good. It means a lot to me. It's like, it was just like silly stuff. Like,
and maybe that, it was kind of funny because like the songs I was playing for the most part were pretty serious, but then I would stop and talk about like just random stuff.
Oh, that makes total sense. Like, I would say I'm a pretty just absurd, ridiculous human. It's just goofy, crazy. But like when I play music, though, when you listen to my songs, like that's like really the only time that I am serious. Is just when I'm playing. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So speaking of music, you've always been as much of a music lover as I am. So how does your love for music shape the way you see the world?
It shapes all of it. I don't know. I would say music is so integral and so just completely intertwined with my daily life and just the person that I am. I don't even know, like that's such a hard question to answer. And I'm kind of more of a person to where like the kind of music that I listen to or the mood, it's always like reflective of my own mood. So like if I'm sad, I don't like seek out happy music, or like upbeat music. I want to hear sad music just because like it feels, how it is when like you feel like the singer like identifies with the way that you're feeling. So, and it's like, pretty much constant throughout the day. I've always got music going. I started listening to music like with my dad when I was a little kid, like just, and it's always there.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'll listen to music in the shower. I'll listen to music like when I'm sleeping. And it's like I create playlists for like every event in life.
Yeah, I don't. It's I can't imagine like people, because I know some people like don't like listen to a lot of music, and I've always wondered if like, if our obsession with music is normal or if it's like more so than the average person. I don't really know. But I do know that for me, at least, it's just, I don't know, music just kind of hits me in like a very deeply like moving way. It's not something that's just on in the background or something that's on to fill space. Sometimes I even like if a, music's on that I enjoy, I have a hard time like paying attention to what I'm doing because I just like get distracted with it.
Right. I think, for most people, music is kind of more of a background thing. It's like there have been many times when I've been like hanging out with somebody and they'd be like, so what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, let's just listen to music. And they're like, but like, that's it? Mm-hmm. And but like, because most people, need some kind of like visual thing going on all the time. But I feel like just sitting and listening to music can be its own activity, like sometimes you don't need anything more than that.
Definitely.
So in college, you had experience as a director and an actor. And among other things, you acted in my play Painted in 2007, and you directed Leapfrog, the short film that I wrote in 2008. So what did you learn most about the creative process during your time as an actor and a director?
I learned that necessarily wasn't like my forte. I don't know. But the thing is like, I think I learned, to be honest with you, all of these things that like I've done, writing, music, film directing, for a long time, like when all that stuff was going on, I was like, man, I really need to do this because I need to make a name for myself, or I need to perfect my craft, or I need to get better. Or I need to like the all ambiguous, I need to make it. Like people would just say that all the time. Like I'm going to make it. Like, I don't even know what that means.
Right.
Like when people just, I'm going to make it, like make a career or make like a thing. I think it just like means, I don't know, I guess for a lot of people, like make a living doing this artistic thing, and I was guilty of that too. But now, like in retrospect, I think doing all that stuff and even the stuff that I do now, I kind of had this realization, not too long ago, where I was like, even if I never like make it, which, I probably won't, whatever that means, making it, I think, just doing the artistic thing itself, whatever it is, like that's it. That's all it has to be. Like it doesn't have to be seen by a ton of people, or you don't have to have like, others validate your work, or you don't have to make money with it. If you want to do that stuff and it happens, then that's great. That's incredible. Like that's, part of the dream. But like, I think for me, like the older I got, it just became like, like I made a movie, when I was younger. I made a lot of things. And you knew me back then, it was never like good enough, or I had to do more, or I had to be better. But now it's just like the act of making it itself, the product, like that is the thing, like there is no like exterior event or validation or what have you that needs to happen. And so just the knowledge that I did it makes me feel better. And so now even knowing that whenever I write something, or wherever I play guitar, or just do like anything really, like if you feel good while you're doing it and you learn something through the process about yourself or about the world, then that is making it,
Right.
For me at least. That definition of making it, it could be different for everybody, but also things tend to like work out better for you or in your favor generally when you stop trying so hard. Yeah. You just do things for you because you enjoy it. You actually tend to reap more benefits and rewards when you just say fuck it and you just stop thinking. I think a lot of it just comes from like overanalyzing. If you just act naturally, because your brain, it's a lot smarter than you give it credit for. It's just when you start second guessing yourself. I know that was like a long tangent, but I think it's kind of relevant for like.
No, it's totally relevant, and it's something that I've kind of been thinking about lately too, because throughout my life, I've always had that idea of like, oh, I need to make it, like I need to be musician that like makes a lot of money, or I need to like make it as a writer or whatever, and now I am trying to quote unquote make it as an author, like, but what does that mean to me? Does that mean I need to be J.K. Rowling? Well, no, it just means like, oh, hey, I would like to make as much money, as an author as I did at, my last day job or whatever, so.
Yeah, you just need to be Sarah Crawford, because no one else can be Sarah Crawford. You're the only one in the world that can do that. And so, I'm sure she has a lot of stuff to say but you can't. How are you going to be Sarah Crawford if you're trying to be someone else? You know?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and I do think, you know, a lot of writers or actresses or really any kind of artists and musicians, it's like, you know, if you are trying so hard to copy somebody else, like you're not going to make it very far doing that, because you're right. I mean, people want to, you know, hear from you and hear what's original about you, you know.
Yeah, you're the only one that can tell all the stories, you know. And then also, like, you know, also one thing that helped too is when I realized, like, hey, you should stop also maybe trying so hard to like be original or like trying to find your voice. Like that stuff's important, obviously, but I think, you know, when you realize and when you accept the fact that really there aren't many like new ideas. Like there's, you know, people have been saying the same things for like thousands of years. So maybe instead of just stop trying to come up with something original or to be unique, like just be yourself, and that's already unique enough. You know, you don't have to like make anything contrived or like put like a force into, because the whole time you're like trying to do it or you're trying to be original or you're trying to be unique, it's not natural anymore, and people can tell. People know that kind of art when they see it. You know?
Right. We focus a lot on, you know, creating books, music, plays, etc. on this podcast, but we haven't talked much about creating, you know, just for the sake of creating, like you were talking about. And so I refer to you as a character enthusiast because you're constantly making up characters. So, you know, you've left me 5-minute voicemails as Reginald Jerryman. For example,
I knew you were going to mention Reginald Jerry,
who is, you know, an old man who's obsessed with coffee filters. So these characters may end up in a story or a screenplay, or they just may be characters that you create to make people laugh. So how important is it to be creative just for the joy of creating, and what role does that kind of creativity play in your life?
You know, the character thing is weird. And I don't really like, I was talking to my friend Tanner the other day about like, you know, when we all like wear different masks and shit throughout the day, and we like put on different personas or we're different people. But like the character thing, I feel like for some reason, depending on like what the subject matter is, it's like, I don't know, like I want to use different characters for that. Like, or different voices. The creating for the sake of creating, I think it's because like human beings like are by nature, like we are kind of creative people. A lot of the characters, especially like creating them, it's usually like, it's never scripted. It's never like, hey, do this voice. It's always like immediate, spontaneous, like, and in the moment. And for whatever reason, certain characters, and maybe even like their certain voices, they're very like satisfying. Sometimes like on a physical level, like the way their voices sound, or so like a lot of things that they talk about. So like Mike's meat, you know, he just talks about meat. Like if I was just to say that in like a normal voice, like, yeah, come in on Sunday, I got a 2-for-1 special on brats. But like when you say it like, yeah, you know, come on in this Sunday, get yourself a couple of brats, a couple of brews, and yeah. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. You know, I know the missus at home likes the chorizo. You know, we got a good one. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just, I think it's to make me laugh, you know, like, or, I mean, I know you like Reginald Jerryman. Like, yeah, he's just like this random guy that's like obsessed with coffee filters. But I mean, that's how it started. He's not like literal. I mean, he has other things. But like, yeah, I remember he would call you all the time and just, you know, be like, well, I was gonna go out today to get myself another filter. I got a new brew. Yeah, I don't know. It's I have no idea.
I love the one where the one day he called me and he left me a voicemail on like the history of all the different types of filter. I was like, this is ridiculous.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff too, and I was leaving that for you, it was when I was working a job that was, you know, now I look at it in retrospect, the job was just so awful and it was just so depressing and it was so wearisome that I remember that sometimes from my work phone, I would intentionally call you and hope that it went to voicemail so that I could like spend 5 minutes just like leaving a message. And actually, that maybe also to answer your question, so doing stuff like that. Okay, so if you take the character thing, like creating characters and being silly, like in character, it makes me happy. It releases dopamine and I feel good, especially if it makes someone else laugh. That's even like a bonus. So I think maybe to answer your question is because it feels good, because it's like a fulfilling, satisfying, like human thing. And for me, like doing voices and being in character just comes naturally. So maybe for a lot of people with other things, like maybe like, for you, like writing, you always have the seem to have like it seems to be easier for you. I mean, I'm sure it's like cathartic in a way. So maybe like catharsis is a big reason. Creating for creating. Like I'm not going to make any money. I don't even have an audience. It's just like feels good to create as a human.
Yeah, I do think it sometimes, there is joy in just, oh, I'm just gonna like make this collage, or I'm just gonna, do this random monologue as this character. Like, and there's no expectation of like, oh, I'm gonna perform this for an audience, or I'm gonna showcase this piece of art to a bunch of people. It's like, I'm just sharing this maybe with one or two people, and
like, exactly. And like, I feel like, okay, when you said that, I was thinking, I think that when we get older and we become quote adults, we lose a lot of that. Like, you're not supposed to do this or you're not supposed to do that. But I mean, like, who doesn't remember being a kid, like 5 or 6 and playing pretend? So I feel like, and when you were a kid, why did you play pretend? Well, I don't know, because it made you happy, because it was fun. And so as an adult, I guess, that's kind of a similar thing. It's like, why do you make characters, or why do you do this? I don't know, because it's fun and I feel good doing it. Like, I think, it also just helps me get back in touch with like that childish kind of like attitude, which, we're always so serious about everything as adults. This is serious, or, it's a big deal. But like, is it really though? Like anything you think that's so serious in life, like it's really not. You just let time pass and you just have fun while you can. And, doing things like that helps.
Yeah,
I mean, we're all kind of going through like, existential identity crises, especially these days. And, like I feel like everybody should do something creative. Like, even if you're not like, quote, an artist, like color a picture, like,
or like sing karaoke,
Sing karaoke. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think a lot of people get down on themselves. They say, well, oh, I'm not an artist, but like everybody is. Like, certain people are better than others at the creative process, but like, we all have like creative tendencies. And I think that's something that we don't really like explore a lot oftentimes, like as a society, and because we just don't think that we can,
Right. And I mean, that's kind of the main, I guess, message of this podcast, or, not even a message, but like just trying to connect with that creativity, because I do, everyone is creative, I mean, maybe it's just, dancing around your kitchen to that song that you really like, or, maybe it is just coloring a picture, or like doodling, on your notepad, like it just, whatever it is. Like, I think the act of creating, or I mean, maybe cooking, like, so that can be very creative for some people. Like, I think there are ways
it's very creative.
Integrate that like in your daily life, and really kind of bring creativity into your daily life.
Yeah.
So throughout the years, we have collaborated a great deal, being in a band together, working together on plays and films, co-writing a short play together. You've also collaborated with a lot of other musicians, filmmakers, and writers. So what do you enjoy most about collaboration, and has it informed your creative process at all?
I guess the thing I enjoy most about collaboration is, if you have a good idea, or you think you have a good idea, like getting feedback from other people, and just like maybe incorporating that stuff. Because there's a lot of different solutions. I mean, you can even like look at it as a problem, I guess. Like there's a lot of different solutions to a problem or a creative maybe endeavor that you are probably not going to come up with on your own because you're only one person. So, but I mean, I will say collaboration for me, I've always kind of struggled a little bit. Like even in bands, like I tend to have more of like a like a Billy Corgan complex where like I want to control everything because like I have a vision in my head of how something I want it to sound. So, you know, even just in life, I guess collaboration is helpful just because you're learning from other people and ways of thought that you may have not been familiar with on your own.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. And I think, you know, the great thing about collaboration is I think, you know, you can create things that you never would have come up with, you know, on your own. Like I remember there at one point I was writing like co-writing a story with my friend, and the way we were doing it is she would write one chapter from one character's point of view, and then I would write the next chapter from a different character's point of view, and we just kept going back and forth like that. And so the you know, the direction the story was heading was completely different than, you know, if I just sat down to write a story by myself.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting, like what was coming out of it, you know. Okay, so I ask everybody about, you know, what they're working on right now. I know you're working on your web series about rehab, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I don't even know if it's a web series. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just basically, so the rehab that I was at was it was kind of unique in that it was, but it was a company that has a series of rehabs across the country. These rehabs are run by S-words. Some people call them wizards. So I had a very kind of unique rehab experience because it's really hard to describe this without like referencing it. Anyway,
I think you can say Scientologist. Like,
yeah.
Well,
okay.
I don't know. Maybe they'll come after you. I don't know.
I don't think they will. I mean, if Leo Ramini is doing all that, I doubt they're gonna like worry about me. But basically,
yeah, I mean,
it was
like the 30 people listening to my podcast are gonna be like, "Oh, Scientologist!" Like,
yeah. So it was a Narcanon. So I was a student. They call their clients students. They don't call them patients or clients. So I was a student there. And then I ended up interning for the company, and then I ended up working them for a little while. And it was just a very wacky, bizarre rehab experience. It was like Scientology summer training camp, basically, that you didn't even know you were in a training camp. You thought you were just like, oh, cool, I'm going to rehab. And then they like kind of switched it up when you get there. But no, I'm basically like, I'm trying to take a subject that, because I've been, in active addiction and I'm in recovery now, but I'm basically trying to take a subject that a lot of people consider like taboo or super serious. This is like not something we should joke about, but like kind of just make light of it and poke fun at it and just laugh, because I feel like when it comes to addiction and substance abuse, everyone's like, oh my gosh, like he has a drug problem or she has a drug problem. Oh, let's be gentle. But the thing is, it's like, it's actually really funny. I mean, drugs and the experience of like using drugs, it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, the whole process is kind of just absurd, like carpet surfing, like digging through your carpet, looking for like drugs or like, there's all kinds of stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, it's just essentially like a web series or just like a short comedy about like kind of like Waiting meets Wet Hot American Summer, but like for rehab. So yeah, I think it should be pretty funny. But I mean, again, like I'm doing it because like I enjoy writing it, like if it does something cool, if not, like it's just still a cathartic activity.
Right. That's cool. So what books or TV shows or movies or music are you really into right now?
I haven't really been watching a lot of TV. I mean, I usually just like watch Rick and Morty like before I go to bed. So I just discovered this band called Tal Uno. They have a song Barry that's really good. I mean, a lot of like, I guess like a lot electronic synth poppy type stuff, you know, like Tame Impala, Starfucker. But then also, you know, like still a lot of indie rock as well. I mean, pretty much your music taste is like almost identical to mine for the most part, especially when it comes to like indie stuff.
Right, right. Yeah, I like a lot of, you know, what I refer to as stoner music. You know, like the shoegaze or the dream pop or the, you know, the beach house and slow dive and all that.
Exactly. I like a lot of like, I do also like a lot of like folky type indie rock. You know, like Band of Horses, Builders and the Butchers, Iron and Wine, Beirut. I really like Wyoke a lot. I mean, all that stuff, you know, the Shins.
Right. Cool. So I have kind of a big question I ask everybody. Why do you think art is important?
Well, I mean, I feel like we talked about that. I feel like a little bit, but basically like, because that's like an expression of just like, it is an expression of the human experience because man, in his existential state, he cannot know who he is. So I don't know, because it's like, because it's, you know, it's art's always going to be more or less like reflective of, you know, the human experience, as well as, you know, they say like, if you want to look at history, you know, I mean, just look at like the art, because it's always going to express or like encapsulate like prevailing ideas of the time. But I mean, that being said, I guess you have to be careful because it can be biased. I mean, all history is like biased, but I would say, you know, humans, we tend to think that we're like the greatest thing ever, that we're like superior, that we have it all figured out. I mean, really, we don't like know shit. And even like a lot of the stuff that we think we're great at, we're not. But I would say art is like the human kind of endeavor. Like if we're remembered for like nothing else when we all die, like, I mean, art would be something kind of worthwhile that would be left behind, you know,
right.
All of like the politics and the opinions and the viewpoints and the philosophies and all that stuff's great. But like, I mean, really, it's just kind of all about the creation of other things, the creative act.
Right. I totally agree. So where can people find you and your work?
I really don't have much of like a web presence. You can email me.
Instagram, aren't you?
Yeah, but those are just like pictures. You know, I'm not really a photographer.
No, I can link to that on findcreativeexpression.com. Yeah, no, so it's totally cool, like, to be, you know, not like blasted everywhere all over the internet like I am.
You make it sound like I'm like 80. I know you're not like on the internet. Like, how can you just not be on the internet? I am. It's just like the last few years of my life have been pretty crazy. So, I mean, that hasn't really been where I've been focusing most of my energy. But, you know, now I'm like living healthier and making better decisions. So, trying to fix all that.
Okay, well, if you when you put out your web series, I'll be sure to link to it on my podcast website.
Okay. All right.
All right. Well, that was really a lot of fun. So thanks for coming on the podcast and talking about art with me.
Yeah, no problem, Sarah.
I had a great time talking to Michael, and I hope you guys found it entertaining as well. Coming up next episode, I'm going to be talking to musician and poet Sean Haney. Sean is a great guy, so definitely tune in for that. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Find Creative Expression podcast. Please take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. You can find me on Instagram at Sarah E. Crawford or youtube.com/Sarah Crawford. Also find me on Patreon at patreon.com/Sarah Crawford to support the podcast for just $1 a month. And that's Sarah, S-A-R-A, without an H.